everyone. I'll be talking about themes and motifs in Alice Munro's short stories today. And firstly, we're going to look at some common topics that she often uses. And the most frequent ones in her works are love, social class, mother-daughter relationships, adultery, betrayal, marriage, family, and age. And as we know, these are all topics, and she uses these to transform them into themes. And oftentimes she takes a very realistic approach, dealing with heavy subjects and trying to expose humans in a very negative light. And there are also some other themes that can only be understood with previous life experience and a previous understanding of human nature. But today we're going to look at The Beggar Maid together, and this story utilizes two of Munro's most prominent themes, love and relationship. And in summary, the main female character, Rose, is a poor countryside student attending university on scholarship. Flo is Rose's stepmother who cared for her, and she is also known to be a very low-class citizen. Dr. Henshaw is Rose's rooming faculty, and she lived in Dr. Henshaw's house, who constantly roomed other poor girls before her arrival. And after a physical accident, Rose also met Patrick, a wealthy and timid graduate student, and they soon fell in love and took a journey together full of emotional twists and turns. But the general plot follows that Rose attends the university and meets and gradually falls in love with Patrick after an assault. Their romantic relationship quickly develops and meets each other's parents. But as we can see from points 4 to 6, they experienced a lot of fluctuations, from a breakup to a reunion, a marriage, and finally a divorce. This fluctuating relationship leads to the first theme I identified in this short story, which is that when people conceal their true selves for various purposes, the adverse or unintentional consequences can emerge. To explore this theme, we are going to first look at the characterizations of Rose and Patrick. Patrick's character is less complex than Rose's and could be summarized as a timid, clumsy, and straightforward scholar. As you can see, the quote on the screen says, "But the deceits and stratagems were only Rose's." Patrick was never a fraud, but Rose was no help, presenting instead of an honesty, passivity, much twisting and fluttering eagerness. Drawing some inferences from this quote and also from my own observations, Rose has a mindset of doing the right thing at the right time, even though the action itself may differ from what she really thinks. And furthermore, Rose is also extremely subjective. She doesn't want other people to label her or force her into something she doesn't want. And this was actually one of the most prominent divides between Rose and Dr. Henshaw. And furthermore, we can also see Rose's deceitful personality through 4 instances in the story. When Rose just got to the university, she missed a scholarship student meeting after getting lost. When she saw the secretary walk towards her, her immediate thought was she was going to get reprimanded and was going to lie about being sick with facial expressions ready to go. However, Munro implies the theme of fakeness resulting in an adverse effect when the secretary remarks, "I think this could be your lucky day if you could put a pleasanter expression on your face." And this trend is observed in 3 other examples as well. When Rose stopped telling Dr. Henshaw what she truly wanted, Dr. Henshaw couldn't decipher her mind and pushed her on the path to become a scholar. And this was a further divide between them. And when Rose met Patrick's mother, she pretended to have a lively voice even though she was very scared and nervous. And her voice was summarized as eager and inappropriately enthusiastic. As a result, Patrick's mother didn't think highly of Rose, and even when Rose brought Patrick to her own hometown, she faked an unnatural tone as if she's interviewing her own people. And even though those are all for good causes, none of this led to the desired results because she was concealing her true self. Furthermore, this theme is also observed if you follow the plot trend. When Rose and Patrick's relationship was just starting, Rose liked to suit Patrick's taste, saying that her father is an amateur scholar, which didn't paint a truthful picture of the circumstances she was in, and this gave Patrick the wrong idea to begin with and served as the primary divide between them. And as their relationship progresses, Rose tried to conceal more parts of herself. She tried to set up a very radiant and attractive character when she wasn't feeling very well. And she was also worrying that Patrick wouldn't love the parts she concealed, namely the energy, laziness, vanity, discontent, and ambition, which were all parts of herself that she withheld. As the quote suggests, Patrick had no idea about these things, and by lying, she adds on the mental stress to herself and creates a further divide between her and Patrick. Concealment didn't help the situation, and finally, when Rose couldn't handle it anymore, she explodes with bitter anger, leaving Patrick clueless. She finally said all of the things she wants to say, such as Patrick's faults in the first quote. As we can see, she said, "I felt sorry for you. You won't look where you're going. You're always knocking things over." And the second quote suggests that she even wanted to beat him. But Patrick's response, because she never got to know Rose's true opinions, his response was, "I don't understand what happened." So ultimately, what we see is that lying distorts relationships through stress, guilt, distrust, and just the fact that the couple will never understand or know each other presents a faulty relationship to begin with. Rose's original purpose to seek a better relationship ends in adverse effect because of her attempts to achieve this goal through means of concealment. And moving on to the second theme, I think it needs to be understood with motifs. And some motifs include the graduation picture of girls in Dr. Henshaw's stairwell, which symbolized her suppressive influence on Rose. The fluorescent tube lights in Rose's home symbolizes the core issues of poverty Munro mentions and wants the reader to understand. And also the fact that the characters are so complex in themselves is also a motif, because it's reminding us that humans and human nature are very intricate. However, the most important one remains to be the painting of King Cophetua and the Beggar Maid. As you can see, the title of the piece is borrowed from it, but it also symbolizes the relationship between Rose and Patrick. Patrick sees himself as the king, with explicit hints from Munro, such as Patrick lives in a world of knights, and also how he loves helping damsels in distress, meaning that he loves helping troubled young ladies. And Rose's role in this case would be the beggar maid, indeed a poor countryside girl. And this motif characterizes the main characters, but also serves as a central conflict, which leads to the second theme I want to explore today, which is love is stained when its purpose is other than love itself. As the story progresses, Rose starts having doubts about the relationship and goes through a mental checklist of all the good things in the relationship. Her thoughts could be summarized in these two quotes. It was not the amount of wealth, but the amount of love he offered. She felt sorry for him. And the second one is, but that leaves out her own appetite, which was not for wealth but for worship. Basically, Rose thinks that if she thrusts back the love Patrick gave her, he won't be able to bear it alone. Thus, she needs to help him out by being nice to him and taking in some of that love. Furthermore, the size and weight of Patrick's love dazzles Rose, and it's a worship that doesn't seem like she'll ever come across again anytime soon. And in fact, this is the pivotal point when her relationship with Patrick truly begins to deteriorate. And Munro couldn't make this theme any clearer with these two allusions she used alongside with the motif. The first is an allusion to the White Goddess, a collection of poems by Robert Graves. In The Beggar Maid, Patrick says, "You don't know how I love you. There's a book called The White Goddess. Every time I look at the title, it reminds me of you." It shows how highly Patrick upholds Rose. But in response, Munro used the second allusion to present Rose's thoughts, using the play The Land of Heart's Desire by William Butler Yeats. Munro writes that, as Rose read, her eyes filled up with tears for herself, as if she was that shy, elusive virgin, too fine for bewildered peasants. In actual fact, she was the peasant, shocking high-minded Patrick. So as we can see, Rose's motives for their love relationship is no longer love. It's for pity and for her own lust for worship. In the end, we see that she's starting to feel sorry for herself, as if she is a generous person taking Patrick in. And this distorts the relationship because Rose's own attitude towards it changes negatively, and eventually when they break up, it's as if she's done being nice to him. And through the motif we looked at together previously, Patrick also thinks he's doing a good deed by helping Rose get rid of her country accent and manners. Eventually, the two characters' loving relationship fall apart, but this is partly because they assume themselves to be in love while they, in reality, are holding different purposes for their union. However, those were just some of my own observations on Alice Munro. Taking more professional, critical views, Alice Munro weaves together complex themes and is praised for doing so. And as we saw earlier on when we analyzed the different themes together, the themes all required analysis of character, plot, illusion, and also it required us to incorporate a previous understanding of human nature. Despite the fact that the themes might be repetitive, the way that she structures each story presents new lessons and insights. However, Munro also received criticism for her themes. In an article written by Christian Lorenzen called Poor Rose on the London Book Review, he targeted 2 points: repetition of themes and the dark turn Munro takes. Regarding the repetition of themes, he wrote, "Over a career now in its 6th decade, she's rehearsed the same themes again and again, but that's because she's a master of variation." On darkness of themes, he wrote, "Reading 10 of her collections has induced me in not a glow of admiration, but a state of mental torpor that spread into the rest of my life. I became sad, and like her characters, I became sadder." But despite the fact that those criticisms hold certain truths with support, I still think that Munro should be praised for her complexity of themes after reading so many of her short stories, and especially after analyzing The Beggar Maid. Of course, it's important to realize that Munro wrote these stories when she was near her 40s. By then, she had a lot of life experiences, and it's more than what us as students have. So chances are that I've left some things out, but I think when I get to an older age, I will be able to see through the characters more and understand the other meanings more clearly. So in summary, Alice Munro uses complex themes that touches on many aspects and requires close reading. She also integrates previous understanding of human nature with allusions and foreshadowings. And she is also praised for complexity but criticized for repetition and the dark turn she takes on themes. And finally, I hope you enjoyed my presentation and learned something new about Alice Munro. Thank you for listening.